Contrary to popular belief, the Middle Ages smelled surprisingly fresh. When we think of the Middle Ages, images of dirty people in rags who hadn't washed in years and stank for miles immediately come to mind. Hollywood has shown us a dark world where people lived in filth and considered washing a sin. But modern historians, having studied authentic documents from that time, have come to a shocking conclusion. Medieval Europeans not only washed regularly, but also knew the secrets of hygiene that we have forgotten. Today, we will debunk the main myth about the dirty Middle Ages and reveal 10 hygiene secrets that will surprise even modern doctors. Watch until the end. The last secret is so effective that it is used by elite spas around the world. The first and perhaps most important fact that completely destroys the myth of the dirty and unkempt Middle Ages is the existence of an extensive network of public baths throughout Europe. Modern people are accustomed to thinking that people back then washed once in a lifetime, but documents and archaeological finds suggest otherwise. In large cities, baths were everywhere. In 13th century Paris, there were at least 26 public baths. In London, there were 18, and in the small German town of Augsburg, there were as many as 15. Even small towns and tiny villages tried to acquire at least one bath, as it was considered a necessity rather than a luxury. Archaeology provides us with a wealth of evidence. In Canterbury, for example, the remains of 12 bathhouses that operated simultaneously have been found, and in Bruges, the foundations of 20 complex bath complexes have been excavated. These were not primitive washing facilities, but true engineering marvels of their time. The baths included water supply and heating systems, as well as separate rooms for different procedures. Some of them could rival the ancient Roman baths in terms of their design, although they also had their own improvements, adapted to the climate and needs of the population. Such establishments operated almost constantly. 6 days a week, the baths were open from morning to evening, and only Sunday was considered a day of rest. People visited them at least twice a week, and wealthy townspeople could even bathe daily. The entrance fee was symbolic and quite affordable. One visit cost about the same as a loaf of bread or a mug of beer. This made cleanliness and hygiene a norm of life for the majority of the population, rather than a privilege of the nobility. The design of medieval baths is impressive in its sophistication. They had hot and warm baths, separate steam rooms, massage rooms, and relaxation areas. In some places, there were pools with running water where you could take a dip after the steam room. Servants offered towels and special soap mixtures made from ash, fats, and aromatic herbs. For many, it was a whole ritual, comparable to modern spa treatments. Bath attendants were held in high esteem. They were not just the owners of the establishments, but people with knowledge of medicine and cosmetology. They knew how to prepare decoctions and infusions from medicinal herbs, gave massages, and treated colds, skin diseases, and rheumatism. Some of them occupied a prominent place in society and were members of city councils. The chronicles contain references to bath attendants who became so wealthy and respected that they became burgomasters. The technical side of the bath's operation was also of the highest standard. Special stoves were used to heat the water, and wooden or lead pipes supplied hot and cold water. Many baths had their own wells or cisterns with clean water. Sewers carried used water to special drains outside the city. It turns out that in the 12th, 14th centuries, European cities already had their own form of public utilities. But the bathhouse was not only a place of cleanliness, but also a real social center. Craftsmen and merchants met here, discussed news, and concluded deals. Men and women spent several hours in the baths, combining body care with socializing, music, and even meals. Taverns were often open next to the baths, where you could eat or drink after your treatments. Medical practices occupied a special place. Bloodletting, oil massages, and herbal baths were performed in the baths. People traveled dozens of kilometers to famous baths to improve their health. Some complexes became real sanatoriums, where patients from different regions flocked. To maintain order, there was a clear schedule. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday were considered women's days, while Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday were men's days. This ensured propriety and allowed everyone, without exception, to use the bathhouse services. Bath culture gave rise to an entire industry. Various types of soap, aromatic oils, bath linen, and brooms made of branches were produced. Entire crafts related to the maintenance of baths emerged. The decline of this culture began only in the 15th, 16th centuries, when Europe was struck by epidemics of plague and syphilis. Doctors of that time mistakenly believed that hot water expanded the pores and facilitated the penetration of miasmas, or disease-causing vapors. As a result, many baths closed, and the habit of regular washing gradually disappeared. It is important to note that, contrary to popular myth, the church did not prohibit bathing. On the contrary, monasteries had their own baths, and many spiritual leaders emphasized the importance of bodily cleanliness. Documents even contain the phrase, "Cleanliness is pleasing to God." Thus, medieval society maintained a high level of bathing culture until the very end of the Middle Ages, which is strikingly different from the usual stereotypes. The second secret of medieval cleanliness, which completely destroys the myth of dirty Europe, is the mass production and widespread use of soap. Contrary to popular belief, it was not an invention of the modern era. Already in the Middle Ages, soap became an integral part of people's daily lives, and European soap makers created unique recipes, the quality of which was not inferior to, and in some ways even superior to, modern analogs. The origins of medieval soap making date back to the 8th century. It was then that the production of the famous Aleppo soap was established in Aleppo, now Syria, the recipes for which spread throughout Europe via merchants and crusaders. This soap was made from olive oil with the addition of laurel, ash, and lime. It was distinguished by its high density, long shelf life, and amazing cleansing properties. Aleppo soap was valued not only by commoners, but also by kings and noble ladies, who considered it a true symbol of sophistication. From the 12th century onwards, Marseille soap gained particular fame. French craftsmen developed their own standard, which strictly prohibited the use of animal fats. Only pure olive oil was allowed. The soap was boiled in huge cauldrons, and the process took up to 2 months. The oil was mixed with lye, molded into bars, and then dried for weeks under the Mediterranean sun. Each bar of soap became a source of pride for the craftsman. Marseille soap quickly became a symbol of French quality and was exported to various countries. Castile soap from Spain was no less popular. It was famous for its softness, delicate texture, and refined aroma. It was made from olive oil with the addition of rose water and herbs, lavender, sage, and rosemary. This soap was especially prized by ladies of high society who valued not only cleanliness, but also delicate skincare. Some types of Castile soap were considered cosmetics and were used as luxury products. In England, they took a different path. English soap makers produced a simpler and more affordable soap based on animal fat and seaweed ash. This soap lathered even in hard water, which made it indispensable in rural areas. It was cheaper than imported varieties and therefore very popular among ordinary townspeople and peasants. Soap production was a complex and high-tech process for its time. Masters precisely calculated the proportions of fats and alkali, strictly controlled the cooking temperature, and used various additives to improve the properties. The technology was kept secret and passed down only within families or guilds. An error in the proportions could turn a batch of soap into a useless lump, so the profession of soap maker required knowledge, experience, and a high level of responsibility. Soap makers' guilds strictly monitored quality. For example, in Marseille, there was a charter according to which soap had to contain only olive oil. No other fats could be added. Violators faced fines and expulsion from the guild. Thus, even in the Middle Ages, there were quality standards similar to modern certificates. Scenting soap became an art form. Local herbs such as lavender, rosemary, and thyme were used, as well as imported spices such as musk, ambergris, and sandalwood. Wealthy families kept soap in special boxes, where it also served as an air freshener, filling the house with fragrance. The medicinal properties of soap were valued by doctors of the time. Medical treatises from the 13th, 14th centuries mention various types of soap used to treat skin diseases, eczema, and wounds. Some types were even sold in pharmacies and used as medicines. Thus, soap in the Middle Ages served not only a hygienic, but also a therapeutic function. Soap had a very high social status. Fragrant and expensive varieties were presented as gifts at weddings, christenings, and birthdays. The ability to give rare soap as a gift was considered a sign of refined taste. Among the nobility was an element of prestige, emphasizing the wealth of the family. The soap trade quickly became a lucrative business. Aleppo soap was transported to Europe via Venice. Marseille soap was distributed throughout France and beyond, and Castile soap was sent to Italy and Germany. In some cities, merchants specializing exclusively in soap appeared and made entire fortunes from it. Even in rural areas, people did not go without this important product. Peasants made simple homemade soap from lard and ash. Although it was coarse and did not smell very pleasant, it cleaned well and became an essential part of everyday life. Recipes for homemade soap were passed down from mother to daughter and remained virtually unchanged for centuries. Thus, soap in the Middle Ages was not a luxury, but a true symbol of cleanliness, health, and well-being. It became the foundation of European hygiene long before the advent of modern factory technologies. The third shocking fact about medieval hygiene is the developed system of dental care. Archaeologists, having studied the skulls of medieval people, found that their teeth were in better condition than those of people in the 18th through 19th centuries. Medieval people had less tooth decay and tartar. Toothpicks were the main tool for oral hygiene. They were made from the branches of certain trees, willow, oak, and elm. The end of the twig was chewed until it became a brush, which was then used to clean the teeth. These sticks contained natural antiseptics and were very effective. Salt was the main cleaning agent for teeth. It was mixed with honey to create an abrasive paste that removed plaque and killed bacteria. Sea salt was considered particularly useful and was brought from distant countries specifically for dental hygiene. Herbal tooth powders were made from dried and crushed plants. Sage, mint, rosemary, and thyme were popular. These herbs not only cleaned teeth, but also freshened breath and treated gum inflammation. Dental elixirs and rinses were an integral part of medieval dentistry. They were made from wine or vinegar with the addition of various herbs. Such elixirs killed bacteria, strengthened the gums, and prevented the formation of tartar. Urea was used as a whitening agent. Medieval people knew that urine contains ammonia, which lightens teeth. This method was especially popular among the nobility, who sought a snow-white smile. Professional dentists existed in large cities as early as the 12th century. They knew how to extract teeth, treat abscesses, and make dentures. Some specialized in cosmetic dentistry, whitening and straightening teeth. Dentures were made from various materials: wood, bone, metal. Rich people ordered dentures made of ivory or even gold. These dentures were attached with wire to adjacent healthy teeth. Diet played an important role in dental health. Medieval people ate a lot of coarse food, which naturally cleaned their teeth. Bread with bran, raw vegetables, and nuts acted as natural toothbrushes. Sugar was rare in medieval Europe, which explains the better condition of teeth. The main sweeteners were honey and fruit, which are less harmful to tooth enamel. Tooth decay became a widespread problem only after the spread of sugar in the 16th and 17th centuries. Chewing gum existed in the form of coniferous tree resin or beeswax. Chewing it cleaned the teeth, massaged the gums, and freshened the breath. Some people added aromatic herbs to the resin for a better effect. Medical treatises contain detailed instructions on dental care. Teeth should be cleaned every morning with a grass stick, rinse your mouth with wine and sage, and avoid food that is too hot or too cold. These were the recommendations of medieval doctors. The fourth secret of medieval hygiene was a developed perfume culture and the use of aromatic substances to maintain body freshness. Medieval people were true masters of aromatherapy, creating complex compositions for various purposes. Rose water was the queen of medieval perfumery. It was obtained by distilling damask rose petals and was used for washing, rinsing hair, and scenting clothes. Rose water not only smelled pleasant, but also had antiseptic properties. Lavender oil was used to repel insects in perfume linen. Bunches of dried lavender were placed in chests with clothes, added to washing water, and rubbed into the skin to protect against fleas and ticks. Lavender was so popular that it was specially grown in monastery gardens. Oriental incense, musk, ambergris, sandalwood, was valued as much as gold. It was brought by merchants from distant countries, and only the wealthiest could afford such a luxury. These scents were applied to pulse points or added to baths. Herbal sachets were an affordable way for ordinary people to enjoy fragrance. Small bags were filled with dried herbs, mint, thyme, rosemary, and carried on the body or placed in bed. These sachets not only exuded a pleasant scent, but also repelled harmful insects. Fragrant oils were prepared by infusing flowers and herbs in olive or almond oil. Jasmine, violet, and lily oils were popular. These oils were rubbed into the skin after a bath, used for massage, and added to cosmetics. Incense and fragrant oils were widely used in the home. Aromatic resins, frankincense, myrrh, and styrax, were burned in special incense burners to scent the air in homes. This not only created a pleasant atmosphere, but also disinfected the rooms. Scented vinegar was a popular hygiene product. Rosemary, mint, and lavender were added to wine vinegar and used to wipe the body, rinse hair, and disinfect objects. This vinegar could be stored for a long time without losing its properties. Pomanders, scented balls made of orange peel studded with cloves, were a fashionable accessory among the nobility. They were worn on a belt or in a pocket to constantly exude a pleasant scent. Pomanders were also considered a protection against disease. Scented gloves were impregnated with various incenses and worn not only to protect the hands, but also as a source of pleasant smell. The gloves were treated with rose water, musk, and civet. Such gloves were an expensive gift. Alcohol-based perfumes appeared in the Middle Ages thanks to Arab alchemists. Europeans learned to distill alcohol and create concentrated fragrances based on it. The first alcohol-based perfumes were very expensive and only available to royal courts. Floral waters were obtained by steam distillation of various plants. In addition to rose water, orange blossom, lavender, and rosemary waters were also popular. These waters were used for washing, rinsing the mouth, and perfuming clothes. Aromatherapy baths were prepared with the addition of various herbs and essences. Lavender and chamomile were added for relaxation, rosemary and mint for invigoration, and calendula and sage for skin treatment. Such baths were both hygienic and therapeutic. The fifth aspect of medieval hygiene that breaks stereotypes is the developed system of washing and caring for clothes. Medieval laundresses possessed technologies that ensured perfect cleanliness of laundry without modern detergents. Lye was the main detergent used for washing. It was obtained by pouring boiling water over ashes and letting it steep for several days. The best lye was made from beech, oak, or fern ashes. This lye effectively dissolved grease and dirt in bleached fabrics. River washing was a real art. Laundry workers chose specific places on the river with a fast current and a rocky bottom. The laundry was soaked in lye, then beaten with special wooden mallets on flat stones. The flowing water constantly washed away the dirt. Urea was used as a bleach and stain remover. Laundry was soaked in diluted urine, with boys' urine considered particularly effective. The ammonia contained in urine dissolved organic stains and made the laundry white. Sun drying was a mandatory stage of washing. Wet laundry was laid out on meadows in direct sunlight. Ultraviolet rays killed bacteria and further bleached the fabric. Such drying could last several days. Starching was invented in the Middle Ages. Starch was obtained from various plants: wheat, potatoes, and iris roots. Starched laundry stayed clean longer and looked more presentable. Professional laundries existed in all major cities. They were usually located on the banks of rivers and had special equipment: boilers for boiling laundry, wooden troughs, and drying areas. The work of a laundress was considered an honorable profession. Laundry was scented with herbs and flowers. Clean laundry was layered with lavender, rosemary, and mint and stored in chests. This not only gave it a pleasant smell, but also protected it from moths and other pests. Stain removers were made from various natural materials. Grease stains were removed with chalk or clay, blood with cold water and salt, and ink with milk or lemon juice. Each type of stain required a special approach. Ironing was done with heated metal or stone irons. The irons were heated over a fire or filled with hot coals. This type of ironing not only smoothed the fabric, but also disinfected the linen with high temperatures. Storing clean linen was a science in itself. Linen was folded with repellent herbs, wrapped in linen sheets, and stored in wooden chests with tight lids. Proper storage allowed the linen to remain fresh for months. The frequency of washing depended on social status. The rich changed their linen every 2-3 days, the middle class once a week, and the poor as often as possible. But even the poorest tried to keep at least their underwear clean. Special washing for different types of fabrics required special skills. Silk was washed in cold water with soap, wool in warm water with special additives, and linen in hot lye. Incorrect washing could ruin expensive fabric. The sixth area of medieval hygiene was a complex system of hair care and advanced hairdressing techniques. Medieval people paid no less attention to their hair than modern fashionistas, using a variety of natural products and techniques. Contrary to popular belief, washing hair was a regular procedure. Hair was washed with special products 1-2 times a week. Soap root, egg yolks, and herbal decoctions were used for washing. These products effectively cleansed the hair and scalp. Herbal rinses were prepared from various plants depending on the hair type and the desired effect. Chamomile gave a golden hue to light hair, walnut gave a chestnut hue to dark hair, rosemary stimulated hair growth, and nettle fought dandruff. Natural shampoos were made from soapwort, iris root, and egg yolks. Soapwort contained natural saponins, which gently cleansed the hair. Iris root gave the hair shine and the scent of violets. Egg yolks nourished and strengthened the hair. Oil hair masks were popular among the nobility. Olive, almond, and rose oils were used. Crushed herbs, honey, and egg yolks were added to the oils. These masks were applied for several hours, then thoroughly washed off. Hair dyeing was practiced everywhere. Blondes used chamomile and lemon juice, brunettes used henna and basma, and redheads used onion skins and calendula. Some dyes were brought from far away and were very expensive. Medieval hairstyles were complex and varied. Women braided their hair, styled it into intricate designs, and decorated it with ribbons and jewels. Men wore their hair at different lengths depending on fashion and social status. Barbers were respected craftsmen who not only cut and shaved hair, but also treated hair and scalp diseases. They knew the properties of various herbs, knew how to massage the head, and make medicinal products. Headwear served not only as decoration, but also for hygienic purposes. It protected the hair from dust, dirt, and parasites. Caps and veils were regularly washed and changed. Wealthy ladies had dozens of different headdresses. Fighting parasites was a constant concern. Various remedies were used against lice, including mercury ointments, kerosene, and wormwood decoctions. Hair was regularly combed with special fine-toothed combs that removed parasites and their eggs. Hair remedies were prepared from various natural ingredients. Burdock oil and nettle helped with baldness, henna and walnut with gray hair, and birch tar and sulfur with dandruff. Many of these remedies are still used today. Hair was perfumed with essential oils and herbal infusions. Rose, jasmine, lavender, and rosemary were popular. Fragrant hair was considered a sign of good upbringing and high social status. Hairstyling required special tools and skills. Curling tongs heated over a fire, various combs and brushes, hair clips and pins were used. Complex hairstyles took hours to create and lasted for several days. The seventh aspect of medieval hygiene was a developed cosmetic culture and skincare systems. Medieval women and men knew many beauty secrets, using natural ingredients to create effective cosmetics. Face creams and ointments were made from various natural ingredients. Animal fats, pork lard, goose fat, bone marrow, served as the base. Honey, egg whites, and herbal extracts were added to them. Such creams nourished the skin and protected it from the weather. Whitening products were extremely popular. Pale skin was considered a sign of aristocracy. Milk, lemon juice, cucumber juice, and rice powder were used for whitening. Some products contained lead white, which was hazardous to health. Scrubs and peels were made from abrasive materials such as crushed almonds, oat flakes, salt, and sand. These products removed dead skin cells, leaving the skin smooth and radiant. The procedure was carried out in bathhouses under the supervision of experienced practitioners. Face masks were an integral part of medieval skincare. They were made from honey, egg whites, oat flour, and fruit juices. Honey masks nourished and moisturized the skin. Egg whites tightened and smoothed wrinkles, and oat flour gently cleansed the pores. Blush and lipstick were made from natural dyes. Red was obtained from beets, cherries, and red berries. Pink was obtained from rose petals. These dyes were mixed with fats or wax to produce long-lasting cosmetics. Perfumes and aromatic oils were essential attributes of noble ladies. They were made by infusing flowers and herbs in oil or alcohol. Popular scents included rose, jasmine, lavender, and violet. Perfumes were applied to pulse points and stored in special bottles. Anti-wrinkle remedies included various natural ingredients with a lifting effect. Egg whites, aloe juice, rose hip oil, and honey with lemon were used. These remedies were applied at night and washed off in the morning with rose water. Hand care required special attention, as hands revealed social status. They were regularly smeared with creams made from animal fats with the addition of herbs. Nails were trimmed, polished, and sometimes dyed with henna or berry juice. Remedies for pigment spots were prepared from bleaching plants. Parsley, cucumber, lemon, milk. All of these were used to remove freckles and spots. The procedures were carried out regularly for several months. Anti-aging cosmetics were based on natural antioxidants. Grape oil, green tea, and aloe extract slowed down skin aging. These products were expensive and only affordable to wealthy people. Sunscreen was made from thick creams and powders. They created a protective layer on the skin that prevented tanning. Pale skin was considered the standard of beauty, so protection from the sun was an important task. Medicinal cosmetics helped to deal with skin problems. Acne was treated with sulfur and tar, dryness with oils and fats, and inflammation with herbal compresses. Many of these products were very effective. Men's cosmetics also existed, albeit on a smaller scale. Men used shaving creams, aftershave, and sometimes light fragrances. Skincare was considered a sign of culture and good manners.
Cleanliness is a bulwark against the invisible foes that plague our villages.
The eighth aspect of medieval hygiene was a developed system of medical prevention and an understanding of the connection between cleanliness and health. Medieval doctors knew much more about hygiene than is commonly believed and actively promoted cleanliness as the basis of health. Disinfecting wounds was a mandatory procedure in medieval surgery. Wounds were washed with wine, vinegar, and herbal decoctions with antiseptic properties. Instruments were heated over a fire or treated with alcohol. Such measures significantly reduced the risk of infection. Quarantine measures were used long before the nature of infectious diseases was understood. Patients were isolated in separate rooms, their belongings were burned or disinfected, and contact was restricted. These measures helped prevent the spread of epidemics. Hospital hygiene in medieval hospitals was surprisingly high. Bed linen was changed regularly and washed in hot water. Floors were washed with disinfectant solutions, and the air was purified by burning herbs. Preventive measures included various herbs and potions that were taken to strengthen the immune system. Echinacea, ginseng, garlic, and honey with herbs were popular. These remedies did indeed increase the body's resistance. Dietary hygiene was based on the concept of hot and cold foods. Doctors recommended certain food combinations to maintain health, restricted the consumption of harmful foods, and prescribed therapeutic diets. Respiratory hygiene included special exercises and procedures. People breathed in the aromas of medicinal herbs, inhaled boiling decoctions, and spent time in coniferous forests to cleanse their lungs. Sexual hygiene was an important part of medieval medicine. Doctors gave recommendations on intimate hygiene, treated venereal diseases, and prescribed contraceptives. Child hygiene began at birth. Newborns were washed in warm water with herbs, swaddled in clean linen, and fed at regular intervals. Children were taught hygiene rules from an early age. Food hygiene included rules for cooking and storing food. Meat was thoroughly cooked, water was boiled, and dishes were washed with hot water and ash. These rules helped prevent food poisoning. Prevention of parasites was a constant concern. Various remedies were used against worms, fleas, and lice. Bed linen was changed regularly, clothes were treated with special compounds, and anti-parasitic herbs were taken. Mental hygiene also had a place in medieval medicine. Doctors understood the connection between mental state and physical health. They recommended music, pleasant aromas, and beautiful views to maintain mental balance. The ninth aspect of medieval hygiene was the highest standards of cleanliness in monasteries, which served as a model for the whole society. Monks and nuns developed detailed hygiene rules based on religious principles and practical experience. Daily ablutions were mandatory for all monks. Every morning they washed their faces and hands, brushed their teeth, and combed their hair. A full body wash was performed at least once a week, often more frequently. Monastery baths were built according to special designs that took hygiene requirements into account. They had separate rooms for men and women, water heating systems, ventilation, and sewage systems. Some monastery baths surpassed city baths in terms of technical equipment. Hospital wards in monasteries were models of cleanliness and order. Beds were covered with fresh linen, floors were washed regularly, and the air was purified by burning aromatic herbs. Patients were washed regularly, their linen was changed, and their bodies were kept clean. Kitchen hygiene in monasteries was strictly regulated. Cooks washed their hands before preparing food, used clean dishes, and washed food thoroughly. Leftovers were not stored for long. Everything was prepared fresh. Laundry and clothing care in monasteries were based on scientific principles. There were detailed instructions for washing different fabrics, drying, ironing, and storage. Monks always wore clean clothes. Rooms were cleaned daily according to a strict schedule. Floors were washed, dust was wiped, rooms were aired, and trash was removed. Cleanliness in the monastery was considered a manifestation of piety and respect for God. The personal hygiene of monks was regulated by statutes. The rules for washing, cutting hair, shaving, and dental care were described in detail. Violation of hygiene rules was considered a sin and was punished with penance. Medical care in monasteries was based on hygienic principles. Monk doctors knew that cleanliness promotes healing. They washed their hands thoroughly before treatment, disinfected instruments, and kept medical rooms clean. Gardening and horticulture in monasteries included growing plants for hygienic purposes. Monks cultivated soapwort, lavender, rosemary, mint, and other plants used for washing and aromatization. The water supply in monasteries was organized at the highest level. Complex systems for supplying clean water, sewage, and wastewater treatment were built. Many monasteries had their own springs or wells with crystal clear water. Monasteries played an enormous educational role in spreading knowledge about hygiene. Monks wrote medical treatises, taught lay people the rules of hygiene, and treated the sick. Many hygiene traditions spread from monasteries to the general population. The 10th and final aspect of medieval hygiene was a carefully developed system of childcare. Contrary to myths about infant mortality due to dirt, medieval parents knew many ways to keep their babies healthy through proper hygiene. Care for newborns began from the first minutes of life. Infants were washed in warm water with the addition of herbs: chamomile, calendula, lavender. These herbs had antiseptic properties and prevented skin infections. Only clean fabrics were used for swaddling. Diapers were regularly washed in hot water with lye, thoroughly rinsed, and dried in the sun for additional disinfection. Dirty diapers were changed immediately. Bathing babies was a daily routine. The water was heated to a comfortable temperature, and decoctions of soothing herbs were added. The procedure was carried out in wooden tubs, which were thoroughly washed after each use. Breastfeeding was considered not only a source of nutrition, but also an important hygienic procedure. Mothers carefully washed their breasts before feeding, monitored the cleanliness of their nipples, and treated cracks with special ointments. Children's illnesses were treated with special attention to hygiene. Sick children were isolated, their clothes were changed regularly, rooms were ventilated, and they were given herbal decoctions to drink. Many childhood illnesses were successfully treated thanks to proper care. Weaning was accompanied by the introduction of hygienic eating rules. Children were taught to wash their hands before eating, chew their food properly, and rinse their mouths after eating. These skills laid the foundation for a healthy lifestyle. Hygiene education began at an early age. Children learned to wash their faces, brush their teeth, comb their hair, and keep their clothes clean. Parents set an example of the importance of cleanliness. Children's clothes were made from natural fabrics and washed regularly. Special attention was paid to underwear, which was changed daily. Outer clothing was cleaned with brushes, aired, and washed when necessary. Toys and children's belongings were kept clean. Wooden toys were washed with soap and water. Rag toys were washed, and metal toys were polished to a shine. Dirty toys could be a source of infection. Children's bedrooms were regularly cleaned and aired. Bed linen was changed at least twice a week. Mattresses were periodically taken out into the sun for disinfection, and floors were washed with hot water and herbs. Prevention of childhood diseases was based on hygienic principles. Children were protected from drafts, food and water were kept clean, contact with sick people was limited, and immunity was strengthened with herbal remedies. Teaching children good hygiene included teaching them the rules of etiquette related to hygiene. Children learned how to blow their nose, cough, sneeze, use handkerchiefs, and maintain cleanliness at the table. The study of authentic medieval documents, archaeological finds, and medical treatises completely refutes the myth of the dirty Middle Ages. The reality turned out to be quite the opposite. Medieval people were cleaner than many of our contemporaries and knew the secrets of hygiene that we have forgotten. The system of public baths that existed throughout Europe ensured that all segments of the population washed regularly. These baths were not primitive washrooms, but complex engineering structures with hot and cold water, steam rooms, and massage services. Soap production reached its highest level in the Middle Ages. Marseille, Aleppo, and Castile soaps were superior in quality to many modern counterparts. The secrets of their manufacture were passed down from generation to generation and strictly guarded by guilds. The dental hygiene of medieval people was so effective that their teeth were in better condition than those of people in the 18th and 19th centuries. Toothpicks, herbal powders, and rinses ensured oral health without modern technology. Perfume and aromatherapy reached a surprising level of sophistication. Medieval masters created aromatic compositions that not only smelled pleasant, but also had healing properties, repelled insects, and disinfected the air. Laundry and clothing care were based on a deep understanding of the properties of various materials. Laundry workers knew secrets that ensured perfect cleanliness of linen using only natural means. Cosmetology and skincare were developed to a surprisingly high level. Medieval women knew recipes for creams, masks, and scrubs that were just as effective as modern products. Medical hygiene was based on a correct understanding of the connection between cleanliness and health. Doctors actively promoted hygiene as the basis for disease prevention and achieved impressive results. Monasteries served as centers for the dissemination of hygienic knowledge. Monks and nuns developed detailed rules of cleanliness that became a model for the whole society and contributed to an increase in the general level of hygiene. Care for children's hygiene was based on a deep understanding of the characteristics of the child's body. Parents knew how to protect their children from infections and diseases through proper care and hygiene procedures. The decline of hygienic culture began in the 15th and 16th centuries due to epidemics of plague and syphilis, when doctors mistakenly linked the spread of disease to bathing procedures. This led to the closure of public baths and the degradation of hygienic traditions. Interest in hygiene was only revived in the 19th century with the development of microbiology and an understanding of the true causes of infectious diseases. Many new discoveries turned out to be well-forgotten medieval knowledge. Modern cosmetology and the spa industry actively use recipes and methods invented in the Middle Ages. Herbal masks, aromatherapy, massage with oils, all of these have deep medieval roots. The study of medieval hygiene shows that progress in this area was not linear. Humanity lost much valuable knowledge and technology, which had to be rediscovered in the modern era. The main lesson from the medieval experience is that effective hygiene is possible without complex technologies and chemical preparations. Natural remedies, when used correctly, can ensure a high level of cleanliness and health. Which medieval hygiene secret surprised you the most? Are you ready to try some medieval beauty and health recipes? What do you think modern medicine can learn from medieval doctors? Share your thoughts in the comments.